On the firing range, the body armor is draped over a thick block of putty to simulate a human body. First, it takes rounds from a semi-automatic 9mm. Then the armor is checked to see where the bullets might have penetrated. Marks in the putty would be wounds on the wearer. Then the process is repeated with a submachine gun. If the armor survives the test, it will be shipped out to Special Forces units, who will custom kit them to their personal specs when they wear them in the field. And the next time bullets are fired at this armor, it will be protecting flesh and blood. Body armor won't make the wearer invulnerable, but this protective gear can get in the way of a bullet and keep a soldier alive. Coming up on Battle Factory. A single round or full-on automatic, it's the right weapon for any operation. When this steel pipe is drilled and honed, it'll become the barrel end of a weapon that's compact, versatile, and deadly as a scorpion. The Scorpion submachine gun is lighter than a rifle and more versatile than a handgun. Fast loading with a fold-out stock, it can fire single shots, 3-round bursts, or empty its magazine in full auto. Accurate to 200 meters, the Scorpion is the weapon of choice for many military and security forces around the world. And the Scorpion machine gun's ability to shoot with precision is built right into the barrel. The steel used to make the Scorpion's barrel is first left to cure outside the plant. Weathering the rain, heat, and changing temperatures might coat the metal with rust, but it also makes it more durable. First, the barrel is precision drilled to create a hollow running the length of the cylinder. Next, the opening is bored out in 115mm sections. The barrel spins on a lathe to scrape off the rust and smooth out the surface. In a hammer forge, 4 synchronized hammers pummel at the steel 1,000 times per minute with 45 tons of force, extending the length of the barrel and etching out corkscrew grooves on the inner wall. These unique grooves, or rifling, cause the bullets to spin so they fly straight and true. Then, the barrel is cut to length. Finally, a technician inspects the barrel's interior, cleaning out any debris and checking the rifling that makes up this Scorpion's distinctive fingerprint. Any flaw in the barrel could send a bullet way off its mark. The trigger is cut to spec inside a computer-controlled cutting machine. Small components that make up the submachine gun's action, including the slide stop, trigger, and dynamic bolt, are baked in a very hot kiln to harden and toughen the metal. On April 30th, 1980, 6 armed men stormed the Iranian embassy in London, taking 26 hostages and demanding passage out of England and the release of their imprisoned brethren. For days, British police stalled, managing to gain the release of 5 hostages without giving in to terrorist demands. In frustration, the terrorists executed a hostage. With lightning force, the British Special Air Services, armed with submachine guns and stun grenades, stormed the embassy, killing 5 of the 6 terrorists and rescuing all but 1 of the hostages. The SAS solidified their reputation in the most successful rescue op of all time. All in all, it takes about 25 minutes to assemble the gun. Each part must fit precisely to within a millimeter's tolerance. The barrel is attached to the body of the gun. Next, the trigger assembly and slide are inserted into the stock. The Scorpion submachine gun is known as the gun that'll shoot under any condition. To make sure it lives up to its rap, testing goes to extremes. First, the gun fires